regular school year, works with a few schools to help them develop their own speech and debate teams. During the summer, we get to work with students from all over New York and or Connecticut, in the case of one student, I think. But we are in PACE, and we have a 2-week-long summer program where we help students get really, really good at speech and debate really, really quickly. And we also, as a part of that, try to make them have as much fun as possible in the 2 weeks, because our philosophy behind this is that if they really enjoy doing the activity, they're going to get good on their own. And we want to show you how good they've gotten and how much fun they've had. So I'll get out of your way soon, but what we're going to have happen today is we are going to have 3 of our different courses. One is extemporaneous speaking, the other one is our introductory course, and finally our Experience Congress class. We're going to have students come up, show you a little bit of what those events look like, show you a little bit of the work they've been doing. I'll have each class have a teacher explain what specifically that class is about and what you're about to be seeing. There are some parent surveys that we're handing out. You don't have to hand them in just yet, but please raise your hand if you haven't gotten one yet so that my friend Ryan can hand one to you. Great, Ryan, I see some people over there. So we'll just hand that to you and we'll collect those from you at the end of the showcase. If there's nothing else, I don't think so. So I'm really excited to get this show on the road. We are going to have the Extemp coach for camp, Coach Brendan, come up and introduce the students and what we're going to be doing.
Thank you, Sasan, and parents, thank you for giving us the privilege of getting to work with your kids for the last 2 weeks. It's been pretty transformative, so we appreciate that. So 6 campers and I have been working on extemporaneous speaking for the last 2 weeks. For those of you not familiar with it, it's an event where students draw questions on current social, economic, and political trends and have 30 minutes to prepare a 7-minute speech. For the speech, they're allowed to have 50 words worth of notes with them. So when our extempers get up here, they have not seen these topics before this morning, and they're going to have a legal pad or note card that has 50 words on it, and that's their information that they get to extrapolate an entire speech from. They're going to be a little bit shorter than 7 minutes today because of our time constraints, but it's a limited prep event, so if they're speaking and you're understanding, that means they did a great job. So we've split it into 3 pairs. Each of our pairs is going to take opposite sides of the same question so that it's a little bit more interactive than a normal round. So first, our first pair is going to be Caitlin and Nguyen, who are going to take opposite sides of whether or not the global community is prepared for the next global pandemic.
Hi everyone, my name is Nguyen and I'm going to give a short speech on the topic, is the international community prepared for the next global pandemic? I'll start soon. As I can tell from standing here, 99% of you guys are not wearing masks. Hi Deco. The symptoms of COVID has lessened throughout the years, but we still have to look at the cause of COVID. According to New York Times on March 23rd of 2024, the height of COVID was from February of 2020 to March of 2021. The height of COVID is short, but not the aftermath of COVID. The aftermath of COVID has been distressing for many people. But we have been improving on that, but also, more importantly, learning and improving from that. So considering that we are using the aftermath of COVID to prepare for our next global pandemic, we have to ask today's imperative question: is the international community ready, or rather prepare for the next global pandemic? And the answer to this question is, fortunately, yes, in one key way. The global supply chain can meet the demand of the international community. Online shopping is so popular that your delivery drivers knows your pet's name. But this has not been always the case because during COVID, it was different. According to whitehouse.gov on November 30th of last year, when COVID started and stores, in-person stores were closing down and online sales were skyrocketing, the US did not meet the demand for online shopping, and so has many countries and government all over the world. They hadn't meet the demand of millions of people around the world, millions of people with medical needs, millions of people who are forced to borrow food from their neighbors, and millions of people whose daily supplies are not met. But this all has changed because we improved. As my mom said, it doesn't matter what mistake you make, but learning from it. According to HBR.org recently, China has been improving their supply chain. And China is a great and large importer to many countries. So by China adapting to the aftermath of COVID, China is setting a precedent for many countries all around the world to follow and meet the demand of people all around the world. So with the international community able to meet the demand of people all around the world, people with medicine needs, people with food, people who need food, and people's daily supplies, we are sure that the international community is ready for the next global pandemic. Now, the international community might be prepared for the next global pandemic, but the next thing we have to worry about is where do we find all the space to put all our online shopping deliveries? Thank you.
Good afternoon. Whoa. Good afternoon. My name is Caitlin, and I will be arguing that the international community is not prepared for the next global pandemic in just a few. If there's one thing in common between the Grandma McFlurry at McDonald's and the world's response to the COVID-19 pandemic, it's that both were a disaster. When COVID-19 first hit the world was not prepared for this pandemic. And despite our technological advances in the medical field over the past couple of years, our response was not fast enough, leading to millions of people dying as a result. However, it seems that the world is trying to learn its lesson, because as reported by the World Health Organization on June 10th of this year, countries like the US, UK, China, and France have been trying to work together to create an accord that will be a game plan for a future pandemic. However, countries working together normally doesn't work out. So, considering this fact, plus the last response to a global pandemic, we must consider today's essential question. Is the international community prepared for the next global pandemic? And the answer is unfortunately no, because of one key reason. The global community as a whole lacks the funding to do so. Now, money is needed for everything. However, it seems that the international community doesn't currently have a lot of money. When COVID-19 first emerged, it came from China. And since it came from China, China was the first one to go on lockdown and the first one to therefore release its lockdown. While COVID-19 did damage economies, you'd think that since China was the first one to release lockdown, its economy should be back and booming right now, right? Wrong. Because as reported by the China Leadership Monitor on August 2nd of 2023, China's GDP has grown by 3%, which is lower than its predicted figure of 5.5%. Now, at first glance, these percentages, 3% and 5.5%, do not seem like much. However, when considering that these single percentages actually represent millions of dollars. China is losing out big time from this loss of 2.5% growth. If China can't even reach its predicted figure of 5.5% growth, then obviously it doesn't have the funds or the excess funds needed to take preventative measures against and to deal with the next global pandemic. Additionally, Europe is not faring well either, because as reported by The Atlantic on March 4th of this year, since the COVID-19 pandemic, Europe has had a near 0% in GDP growth. Now, if Europe, one of the most technologically advanced regions in the world, is struggling to grow its economy back from COVID-19, then Europe does not have the excess funds to actually prevent and deal with another global pandemic. Since both China and Europe, some of the most advanced regions in the world, cannot deal with the next global pandemic financially, then it's safe to say that the international community as a whole cannot deal with another pandemic financially either. Therefore, the international community is not prepared for the next global pandemic because it lacks the funding to do so. Now, while a Grandma McFlurry at McDonald's can be fixed by repairing a broken ice cream machine, it will take a lot more than milk and ice cream to fix the global community's response to another global pandemic. Thank you.
No notes. Our next pair is going to be Joya and Melanie, who are going to be taking opposite sides of whether or not President Biden will be able to garner enough support for his proposed changes to the Supreme Court.
Hi, I'm Joya, and today I'm arguing that Joe Biden will be able to garner enough support for his proposed reforms to the Supreme Court. There are certainly many things in this world that's younger than Clarence Thomas. For example, the official state of Israel, radios, and 80% of the American public. Supreme Court justices are not just under fire for being old, but also having questionable ethics. As reported by CNN on July 2nd of this year, that Supreme Court justices are being criticized for having corrupt ethics, such as, for example, Justice Samuel Alito owning flags that support the January 6th insurrection in his backyard. Multiple of the conservative justices receiving undisclosed luxury gifts from major GOP donors. And most importantly, Supreme Court justices keep continuing making controversial decisions, such as overturning Roe versus Wade and giving presidents immunity. And the public certainly isn't very happy about this, which is why Joe Biden, a few weeks ago, finally announced that he will finally do something about this, and that he will be proposing reforms to the Supreme Court to make sure that the American people's values are represented by its legal system. And with the 2024 presidential election coming in just a few months, it's especially imperative that Joe Biden can get his reforms passed, because if Donald Trump becomes the next president, it is very unlikely that he will keep continuing President Biden's proposed reforms, which is why we're asking the essential question of today. Will President Biden garner enough support for his proposed reforms to the Supreme Court? And the answer to that is a resounding yes, because he currently will have bipartisan support from Congress. The Democratic politicians, just like its voters, are less than happy with the status quo of the Supreme Court, especially after, according to Bloomberg on July 6th, after the Supreme Court granted Trump and all presidents partial immunity from all official acts done in office, which would certainly be majorly helpful for Trump's legal team. But it's not just that the Supreme Court is quite biased, especially for the GOP party, but also that the Supreme Court does not represent half of the American public's values, which is why immediately after Joe Biden announced his plans for change, that many of the Democratic lawmakers jumped to vocally support and promise that they will vote for Joe Biden if a bill is needed to pass in Congress. On the other hand, the Republican Party, which the Supreme Court has been immensely helping, because as confirmed by BBC News on just February this year, 6 of the 9 Supreme Court justices are leaning conservative, which means that the decisions they make that aligns with the GOP's value. But in contrary, as reported by the Los Angeles Times just 2 days ago, more than 50% of Republican members in the Congress actually support an 18-year term limit for all Supreme Court justices, which is quite a significant part of Biden's proposal to reform the Supreme Court, meaning that it is most definitely that Congress will be able to pass a bill at least promising to have a 18-year term limit on the Supreme Court. And after that, the public positively respond to the decision, that more of the Republican Congress members will feel that they are allowed to, and it's okay for them to vote for a Democratic proposed bill, which means that in the end, President Biden will be able to garner enough support for his proposed reforms on the Supreme Court. Thank you.
Hi, can you hear me? Okay, hi, I'm Melanie, and I'm going to be arguing that Biden will not garner enough support for his proposed reforms. Despite Clarence Thomas's old age, he's young at heart. Because what other 76-year-old has the energy to be going on these luxurious trips, which, as NPR reported on June 11th of this year, Republican Justices Clarence Thomas and Samuel Alito were under fire and criticism for because of how they were given these luxurious trips by Republican donors, and especially after they had signed the ethics code last November. And because of this, Democratic politicians, and especially in Congress, have been urging Biden since 2020 to do something about this. And recently, Biden has proposed reforms to the Supreme Court in order to limit their power. And considering that these types of reforms would be able to impact the way that one of the most important branches of government runs for the next few decades, we must ask the question, will Biden garner enough support for his proposed reforms on the Supreme Court? And the answer, unfortunately, is no, because of how he would not be able to pass these types of bills. Joe Biden and Clarence Thomas might be some of the oldest members in government, but the difference between the two is that Justice Clarence Thomas doesn't have as many restrictions on his role that Biden does. And for this exact reason, President Biden had proposed reforms that, as MSNBC reported just 5 days ago, include having an enforceable ethics code, implementing term limits, as well as expanding the number of justices on the Supreme Court. But these types of reforms would most likely not pass through Congress. And the reason for this is because, as BBC, a news corporation that interviewed our very camp director about his unemployment in a different article, reported on July 16th of this year that these types of democratic bills would be hard to pass through Congress because of how split the U.S. Senate is between Republicans and Democrats. And even if this type of bill was able to pass through the U.S. Senate, it would most definitely not be able to pass through the House of Representatives because of how the Republicans have such a large majority. And in addition to this, in the House of Representatives, as NBC News reported on January 29th of this year, in 2023, only 5% of Republicans voted for Biden proposed bills, while 93% of Democrats voted for Biden proposed bills. But of these Democrats, the ones that were elected in Republican states only voted for Biden proposed bills 84% of the time, showing that these Democrats are more likely to cross the aisle and vote with the majority of the Republicans. In addition, all members of Congress, no matter what political party they identify with, are not likely to end up voting for this bill because of how part of the plan is to expand the number of justices in it. Because of this, the opposing political party of a politician has the opportunity to have an even larger majority than there currently is on the Supreme Court. Additionally, Republicans would most likely not vote for this type of bill because of how there is already a Republican majority on the Supreme Court, and they would not want to limit the amount of power it has, which is why Biden would not garner enough support for this type of bill from members of Congress because of how it is not capable of being passed. And whether or not this type of reform actually ends up being passed, hopefully the Supreme Court is able to make decisions that hundreds of millions of Americans would support as a whole. Thank you.
Our last pair of speakers up here are going to be especially impressive because before last Monday, they had no idea what extemporaneous speaking was. They had never given an extemporaneous speech before. And now they are going to come up here and they are going to give part of a speech. They'd all keep going, by the way, if I didn't stop them by telling them that they were done. But both Misha and Odin, they're a brand new event for them. They're going to be arguing opposite choices of who Kamala Harris should choose as her vice presidential candidate.
Hi, my name is Misha, and I'll be arguing why Josh Shapiro should be the candidate for Kamala Harris's vice president. I'll start in a second. Batman gets all the credit, but he's nothing without his Robin. And Biden also gets all the credit, good or bad, but he's nothing without Kamala Harris, who is now donning the mask and needs her Robin. And this is actually no, oh my God. And you need.
You got it.
And now needs her Robin. And after a disastrous debate, President Biden withdrew from the presidential race last Sunday and left the Democratic nominee position open. And Kamala Harris is now the presumptive Democratic candidate and now needs a vice president. And there are many options for this, such as Pete Buttigieg, Andy Shapiro, or Gretchen Whitmer. And that leads to today's imperative question. Who should be Kamala Harris's vice president? And I think the answer is Josh Shapiro, because he can bring in the crucial state of Pennsylvania. Pennsylvania is one of the most important states in the presidential election with 20 delegates. 20 delegates that can make or break a presidential candidate's chance of winning the election. And right now, however, Kamala Harris is doing extremely badly, losing, according to Politico, by 3.8% in Pennsylvania. Nearly 4%, that could mean that she loses this crucial state and therefore the election. However, Josh Shapiro, the governor of Pennsylvania, won Pennsylvania by nearly 14%. 14%. And if he becomes the vice president of Kamala Harris, he could bring some of those voters to her. He also, according to ABC News, has a 54% approval rating. Again, if some of those voters go to Kamala Harris, she could win this crucial state. The problem is Kamala Harris is losing this crucial state. However, the solution is Josh Shapiro, who can bring in those votes. And the effect is Kamala Harris winning this state and the election. Most people think this election is just between Donald Trump and Kamala Harris. However, there is someone else in the mix, the vice president, and that could be Josh Shapiro, who could bring in crucial votes in Pennsylvania, winning Kamala Harris that state, winning her the election, and helping her make history. Thank you.
All right, I'm Odin Adeller. We have the same question. It's 2024, a crucial election year. The news, is constantly going off with all these updates and developments about these rallies and political events. And, just listen to, Joe Biden in his dropout speech. He said that he was stepping down to unite our nation to save our democracy. The president thinks democracy is at stake in this election. So, clearly a lot's on the table here. But currently it's really close in the election, right? Harris, Trump, similarly with Biden and Trump until the debate are, pretty much dead even. However, a VP pick could radically change, especially in certain states with certain demographics, could change how the polls are, and the eventual votes. But that's why I think that Andy Beshear should be Kamala Harris's VP pick. Now, why is that? Well, Kamala Harris would probably want to expand her voting group instead of just the core Democratic base. And who else to get than a Democrat governor in the state of Kentucky? Donald Trump won the state of Kentucky this is according to Politico, 62.1% to 36.2%. So a complete landslide. However, the Democrat Andy Beshear was able to win the state, according to CNN, 52.5% to 47.5%. And, this is even more odd when you look at, according to, Kentucky's government, 44% of the state are rural voters. This is a state and a group of people that usually won't vote Democrat. But guess what? Andy Beshear is actually the Democratic governor with the highest approval ratings in the entire nation, at 67% approval, according to Morning Consult. So, if you're trying to get, especially rural voters who, many feel that national Democrats aren't paying attention to them, especially in, red states like Kentucky, you want to expand your base, go in and get rural communities in states like, Wisconsin or, Michigan, Pennsylvania, all the swing states, right? Arizona, Georgia, New Hampshire, then you're going to be wanting to get someone who can appeal to those voters, even if they might disagree on a lot of topics, but, they'll support him, hopefully more than, Donald Trump. And that's why to win this election, to, quote, save our democracy, like Biden, thinks we need to do, then the Democrats must choose Andy Beshear and give the people of Kentucky, the rural voters, a voice and a place in the Democratic Party.
All right, let's hear it for all of our extemporaneous speakers. All right. So as I mentioned earlier, Extemporaneous is one of the events we do. We're going to be introducing you to our Congress coaches. First, our Introduction to Congress class. One of the things that makes debate a little bit different than speech is that debate has more students on stage at the same time collaborating on the issue. And here to tell you a little bit more about that is one of our Congress instructors, WK.
Hi, everybody. Like Sasan said, I'm WK. For those of you that haven't met me, I use they, them pronouns, and I'm super excited for the past 2 weeks having been an awesome introductory course for speech and debate. So like Sasan said, we focus on a format of debate called congressional debate. If you've ever heard of Model UN or mock trial, it's a lot like that, but instead, the debaters will be role-playing members of Congress and doing a much better job than the real people. I knew that joke always lands with parents. So, in that vein, what you're about to hear are all of our students in the introductory course, both mine and our other Congress coaches, who you'll meet in a second, debating 3 different types of legislation that they worked on these last 2 weeks to create really awesome and compelling arguments. So to introduce the topics they'll be debating and our first round of student debaters is our other introductory course instructor and co-founder of the Brooklyn Debate League, John Conyers.
Hi everybody, how y'all doing today? So first things first, all campers, all staff, give a round of applause for all these parents here. And I'm not just doing that because we want your funds. I'm saying that because your kids have literally been amazing. And I know sometimes you guys give us a pat on the back, you thank us, but they fill our cup just as much as we try to fill their cup. And I'm so blessed and thankful to have worked with so many amazing students. And you guys know I'm crazy. I'm not just saying that because your parents is here. I really mean that. And thank you guys for making these 2 weeks enjoyable. I cannot say that for the people who are with my kids right now in camp. So really thank you all. So the first term I'm gonna use is called PO, and that term stands for Presiding Officer. That individual will be in charge of making sure they maintain order, that the debate doesn't get too rowdy. We are not the ones in charge, they are in charge, and we're very thankful that they took this challenge on. Many of you guys, your first time doing speech and debate, but you guys won't feel that today because they will be the experts. So to start it off, the first topic that we will be debating is a resolution for 4-day work weeks. So in Congress, we have something called a bill, and our students are so smart, they created their own bills that they're going to debate today. And this bill is basically trying to change the 5-day work week from 40 hours to 32 hours. So you're going to see somebody on the affirmative side, which is for this bill. They want to make the work week 4 days instead of 5. And then you're going to hear some kids that's on the negative side that want to keep the status quo of 5 days, 40-hour work weeks. In charge and our PO today for the first bill is Veronica. Give a round of applause for Veronica. You said any way you want to.
Okay. Thank you, everyone. I would like to call up our speakers for this bill. Senator Hauser, Charlotte. Senator Saakashvili. And Senator Alyssa. I call this chamber into order at, I call this chamber into order at 3:03 p.m. Are there any motions?
Motion.
Senator Hauser.
Main motion.
Are there any seconds to that?
Second.
Are there any other motions?
Motion.
Senator Tiger.
Motion to open the floor for docket nomination.
Are there any seconds?
Second.
Are there any docket nominations?
Motion to nominate 4-day work weeks.
All right, are there any other docket nominations?
Motion. Motion to end docket nomination.
Okay, any seconds?
Second.
Seeing as there are no other dockets on the table, we will move forward with our debate. Are there any authors present? Seeing as there are no authors present, we will move on to sponsors. Are there any sponsors present? Senator Hauser, you have the floor.
Thank you. Hello, everyone. Wait. Okay, well, I don't like microphones, so I'm loud enough. It's fine. Hi, I'm Senator Hauser, spelled Houser. You don't need to know that. I am at the leisure of all of those above me, so as always, if my judge, PO, and parliamentarian would please give me a thumbs up, I will then begin my speech. Thank you, Veronica. Thank you, everyone in the back. I will begin now. A couple years ago, in her old job, my mom is insanely overworked. She often returned home from work with no energy to talk to me or my sister. It was incredibly difficult to find time to see her, and even more difficult when she quit that job to begin to look for a new one. However, when her new job finally allowed for her to see us for more than 2 minutes per day, I realized that no other kid should ever have to go through the same thing that I did. Barely even speaking to my parents during some of the most fundamental stages of my entire life.
It is for this reason, senators, that we must pass this bill. It will allow for burned out and overworked adults to finally find time for themselves and be given a much-needed break from grueling week-long shifts. America is not really known for its exceptional treatment of mental health topics or the working class. However, certain circumstances, most notably the coronavirus pandemic, caused a mass amount of adults to rethink their mentality around jobs and a healthy work-life balance. According to a survey conducted by Bankrate, a news and analysis team of journalists, an overwhelming majority of the US workforce, 89% to be precise, support the idea of implementing a 4-day work week. Many adults saw the effects that more free time can have on mental health, a long overdue realization, as in recent years, over 58 million adults have been noticed to suffer from mental illness. More free time away from a stressful job can reduce the mental load, leaving you more level-headed and alert when working and also serving as a helpful guide to navigating burnout. Reducing symptoms of depression, anxiety, and burnout is also the product of spending time with family or loved ones. Strong ties with those we care about is essential, and shorter work weeks allow for more opportunities to better your mental state. This can again be seen with my own mom, who nowadays, thanks to a shorter work week, has more time to spend with me and my little sister, and is benefiting tremendously by allowing herself a healthier work-life balance. This bill has the unique opportunity to not only assist in promoting mental wellness to the working class, but positively affecting their families and everybody in their communities around them. Senators, we must pass this bill for adults like my mom, who are stronger now because of the connections that they keep to their family and clarity that they found by focusing on their mental well-being. Thank you. I now stand for questioning.
Thank you, Senator Hauser. You are now in for one block of questioning. All senators with questions, please rise. Senator Tiger.
So you say that it increases mental health, but once there's a 4-day work week, won't wages decrease and workers will get less money and possibly not be able to pay for basic needs, so won't their mental health decrease?
Actually, according to a survey conducted by Megan Beauchamp, the 4-day work week actually means receiving the same pay, but with more time off to focus on yourself.
Well, then won't that be bad for businesses because they're paying the same amount but getting less work out of their workers?
The businesses will receive the same time frame of work from the workers, but their productivity will be increased because of the less time they are spending and the more time they're focusing on their mental health. Thank you.
I think they should.
Thank you, Senator Tiger and Senator Hauser. You may take your seats. Seeing as that was a speech in the affirmation, we will now move to a speech in the negation. All negation speakers, please rise. Senator Sakisili, you have the floor.
Thank you. Good afternoon. My name is Senator Sakisili, spelled Saquisili. I am at the leisure of all those above me, as signified for my PO, and I will begin. Great, thank you. A coyote is defined as a wild dog that resembles the wolf. However, that is not the coyote that matters in my life. The coyote I know is the one that helps immigrants make it across the border. That is the reason why we failed this bill today. My 6-year-old dad and abuela came here because this was supposed to be the place of land and prosperity, not to be exploited by capitalist greed. The affirmative will lie to you and tell you that this will help with mental health, productivity, child care, and the bogus list goes on. But I know, based on my family's experience, that capitalist greed always wins. People like my dad will always be exploited for way below his worth. If you care about immigrants, citizens who will lose their jobs, and people with work visas, then you will vote to fail this bill. This bill targets immigrants and promotes the future exploitation of immigrants. My first reason why we should pass this bill is migrant workers are contributing in nearly every sector in the economy, and they're also being exploited in all of them, across all industries and across all wage levels. This is a full-blown crisis. This is according to the Director of Immigration. The passage of this bill will intensify the exploitation of immigrants workers as they are already exploited across all industries and wage levels, as noted by Shannon Lederer. Employers could force larger hours without proper compensation, leading to heightened financial security, irregular pay, and unpredictable hours, further financial instability, making it harder to afford basic needs. While Senator Hauser may argue that a 4-day work week will lead to better mental health, they are lying. For example, a worker who makes $20 an hour who transitions from a 5-day work week to a 4-day work week would see an annual income drop from $41,600 to $33,280. Mind you, this is pre-tax. A reduction of $8,320 a year. This substantial difference could mean not being able to afford basic expenses like rent, utilities, and groceries. This will further lower mental health in our low-income households, the opposite of the intended purpose of this bill, according to the affirmative. My second reason as to why we should fail this bill is the further backlog it will cause to our court system. According to uscourts.gov, as of today, there are 48 vacancies for judges nationwide, with some vacancies being from before 2021. It has been 3 years since those vacancies have been. It will be incredibly difficult to fill these spots, meaning the nationwide case backlog will only increase. Immigrants will experience longer wait times for their cases to be heard and resolved. This prolonged uncertainty can result in a significant emotional distress and financial hardships as families wait to hear on their case. Imagine not being able to see your family because your country has failed you and there's a backlog in the courts. Overall, this bill targets immigrants, people with work visas, and the future exploitation that will come with this bill to these vulnerable groups is not what this country stands for. If you care about equality, fail. I now stand for questioning.
Thank you, Senator, for that speech. You are now in for one block of questioning. All senators with questions, please rise. Senator Brianna.
Hello, Senator. Really great speech. My question is, have you ever heard of overtime?
Thank you, Senator. That is a great question. Of course, I know what overtime is. But employers will not give the option of overtime and will outsource these jobs to immigrants.
Wouldn't that be an assumption?
No, it is not, because immigrant labor workers are underpaid due to their legal status.
And what evidence do you have to prove that?
According to Urban Institute Immigration Studies Program, immigrants' hourly wage are lower on average than those of natives and nearly half in less than 200% of the minimum wage.
I thank the chair.
Thank you, Senators. You may take your seats. Seeing as that was a speech in the negation, we are in line for one more speech of the affirmation. Senator Alyssa, the floor is yours.
My name is Senator Moy, spelled Moye. I am at the leisure of all those above me. May I get a sign of life from my PO to begin. 5-day work weeks are like workouts. You push your body to failure till it physically cannot give any more. And even when you stop for a little break, you continue to go. Today, 5-day work weeks are normal, but it shouldn't be normal to see your kid only a few minutes a day. When you're going to work, they are leaving for school. When you come home, they already sleep. It shouldn't be normal to experience burnout and exhaustion and just put through like it wasn't even there. Pass this bill to create a better and new normal for us. The first reason why we should pass this bill is because exhaustion kills. According to NPR, 745,000 people die from being overworked. This is due to long hours leading to heart disease and stroke. People are losing their lives to 5-day work weeks. More specifically, veterinarians are among those people. Veterinarians experience a high rate of suicide. According to Psychological Day, 80% of veterinarians have experienced clinical depression. 82% of veterinarians have experienced burnt out. This is built on by euthanasia. Not only are they affected by their own emotions, but the emotions of pet owners. And it does not help that vets work more than 40 hours a week. So pass this bill if you care about human lives. The second reason you should pass this bill is because it can improve our environment. According to International Energy Agency, 265.7 million people drive gas cars as of 2023, and only 40 million drive electric cars in 2024. The continuation of driving gas cars will release more greenhouse gas emissions, increasing global warming and climate change. Additionally, according to the U.S. Environmental Protection, 6,343 million metric tons of greenhouse gas emissions are released. Having 4-day work weeks will reduce our carbon footprint as a country, and having a good environment will benefit everyone. So do not stand with Senator Saakashvili. Do not stand with the neg. Stand with the AF and save lives. Pass. I now stand for questioning.
Thank you, Senators. Those with questions, please rise. Senator Anthony.
Thank you for that speech, Senator, but I have a few questions for you. My first question is, how would the income between the 4-day and 5-day work week affect somebody?
The income will be the same for a 4-day and 5-day work week. They will still get the same amount of pay, so they won't be affected at all.
All right, and my second question is, how would this affect the company in a month?
The company, like the products will be better because more people are being productive. According to CNBC, productivity increased by 91%.
I take the chair.
Seeing as there are no more speakers left, the chamber is now closed. I will now take a moment to break parliamentary procedure and invite Coach John up to introduce us to our next topic. Thank you.
Another round of applause for them, guys. Keep in mind, we said intro. They did all of that in 2 weeks. Amazing. So now we're going to get to the second topic. Another bill wrote by amazing students. This topic is they will be debating if we should have free college tuition. All right? So our PO for this round will be Senator Nikolai. Give a round of applause.
I call this chamber into order at 3:17. Please welcome speakers Senator Sawyer, Senator Collins, and Senator Sankar. Today we'll be debating the topic of free college. Our first speaker is Senator Sawyer. Senator, the floor is yours.
I thank the chair. Hello, my name is Senator Sawyer, spelled S-A-W-Y-E-R, as in Tom Sawyer. I'm at the leisure of all those above me, so if I can get a okay from my PO, I will begin. 15.2 million children live at or below the poverty line. So what if all of them could go to college guaranteed? Well, I'll tell you. The U.S. Bureau of Labor states a 68% potential increase in earnings when one holds a bachelor's degree. So the first reason why we must pass this bill is because it would empower so many to actually obtain a college education. And as you can probably tell, college is incredibly important to earning a reliable and high amount of income. So we must open the door for everyone. This bill is targeted to those with an income of $100,000 and below. A lot of these people don't attend college. Some have full-time jobs and simply don't have time for this. Some are scared of the enormous debt college often comes with. So what if we could eliminate the whole money aspect of college? So the second reason why we must pass this bill is because it would make any future student debt crisis obsolete. No tuition, no reason to take out a loan. According to the Council of Foreign Relations.org, in 2022, around 2/3 of students enrolled took out student loans. And the student debt crisis is estimated at $1.6 trillion and is rapidly increasing. This bill would completely halt any increasing student debt. In the student debt crisis figure, those who take out smaller loans for lesser degrees often have the hardest time paying off their loans, and often these people are of low income status. This bill is targeted to those with low income status. This bill can eliminate the status quo. And this isn't even the worst. Those who struggle the most are those who don't even graduate. Often, people of low income status have to juggle jobs and college at the same time, and may not even graduate. And what about their loan? The default rate of those who don't graduate is 3 times that of a graduate. And so even though it may not be their fault, they are plunged into a vicious cycle of debt. This bill can eliminate this possibility. Loans often consume the lives of students, and this bill can make this no longer a reality. And for that reason, we must pass this bill. Now, there are a couple concerns with this bill. Let me address these. For one, how would we even pay for this? Well, some estimates bring making tuition free into around $1.4 trillion. That is a lot of money. However, in one fiscal year, the US generates 4 times this. The US has enough money already to pay for it. Also, the government is able to spend more than they actually have. The deficit is an accepted practice, and this bill is essential enough to do so. And remember, with the economic stimulation from allowing millions to earn high-paying jobs, we will eventually be able to outweigh the cost of this bill. We could potentially increase the earnings of all Americans by 68%. If we fail this bill, we will be denying Americans the path to the American dream. Thank you. I now stand for questioning.
Thank you, Senator Sawyer, for that amazing speech. Senator Sawyer is now in line for one block of questioning. All those who wish to question, please rise at the top of my gavel.
Thank you for that speech, Senator Sawyer. But my question is, what measures will you implement to ensure that the quality of the education does not decline as a result of higher enrollment?
Well, that's a really good question, actually. However, if you analyze the legislation, we purposefully leave out a clause for regulation of education up to state and local laws, and even up to individual institutions. Also, if your concern is that students not doing well in their classes will deteriorate the quality of education, Section 3C states that students must make satisfactory progress towards graduation each in order to continue in the program. So this literally discourages any failure or lackluster performance. So the quality of education won't actually really decline.
I thank the chair.
Thank you. As that was a speech in the affirmation, we are now in line for a negation speaker. And our next speaker is Senator Collins.
Hello, my name is Senator Collin, and if I'm at the leisure of those above me, so if my judges, PO, and parliamentarian will please give me any sign of life, I will get started with my speech. Okay. Nelson Mandela once said, "Education is the most powerful weapon which you can use to change the world." Free college would be amazing, but the reality is that this bill is flawed and not enough research has been put into this bill to make it work. This money should be used elsewhere. Right now, America is involved with 3 wars, and seeing that the conflict starting right now, probably more too. So shouldn't we save more money for the lives that could be lost in these wars? And what about climate change? If we end up raising our taxes, shouldn't it be to help save the already dying Earth instead of thinking that it's tomorrow's problem? Climate change is real. And and with all the wars going on and going to happen, shouldn't we be putting that money into saving the Earth? According to the Peter G. Peterson Foundation, in the article, What is Free College and How Much Will It Cost? A last dollar program would cost the government $28 billion. By comparison, the first dollar program would cost about twice as much. And a debt-free program would cost almost 3 times more. This is an issue that needs to be addressed yesterday, not tomorrow. $28 to $75 billion per year could ultimately be used toward a better tomorrow and to help the future generation. I mean, the next generation, sorry. Don't you want to live in a world where climate change isn't really a problem? If we pass this bill, climate change will still be a problem. And do you know what the difference between wealth and income is? Well, neither do the writers of this bill. As stated in Section 1, the U.S. federal government will guarantee access to tuition-free college education for citizens with a family income of less than $100,000 per year. And you may be like, what do you mean? Some rich people... what do you mean? What do you mean? Rich people have a lot more than $100,000, but some rich people, a small amount, don't work, so they don't have any income. But that doesn't mean that they don't have any money. The difference between wealth and income is that income is how much money you make per year, but wealth is just how much money you have as a whole. So if you're a trust fund kid or you're a retired person with kids around 17 to 18 years old, then you would technically have no income. And there's nothing stopping rich people from getting free stuff because who doesn't want free stuff? And And for a lot of these rich people, their aim is to get a degree higher than a bachelor's degree. So they go to college for free, and then when the time comes to go to grad school, they would end up saving money and be able to use it towards buying a place in Yale or Harvard. Now I will stand for questioning.
Thank you, Senator Collins, for that great speech. You are now in line for one block of questioning. All those who wish to question Senator Collins, please rise at the tap of my gavel. Senator Frazier.
Thank you, Senator, for that wonderful speech. You addressed this in your speech, but why would those wealthy people want to go to community college? Why, if they're upper class, why wouldn't they want their kids to have great education?
I mean, who says that community colleges aren't great education? And also, why would most of the people who end up going to Yale or Harvard, they want to go for graduate school, not just college.
Okay. On to my second question. If we pass this bill, it will help educate the people. You were talking about climate change. If we pass this bill, it will help educate people who can save the world and fight climate change. What do you have to say to that?
How do you know that the people will choose to go into science instead of something else, like art or math?
According to Science Daily, 75% of Gen Z have already taken action against climate change, and so many more care about the cause.
It will take a lot more than just like a few years to be able to like implement the climate change thing. It takes about 4 years to graduate college, and is it done? Oh, I keep on going. Okay. It takes about 4 years to graduate college, and then it takes a couple of years to get a good and well job. How do you know that those kids will make a change?
Thank you for those great questions. You may be seated. Our next speaker is in the affirmation. Senator Sankar, please rise. Senator, the floor is yours.
My name is Senator Sankar, spelled S-U-N-C-A-R. I am at the leisure of all those above me, and if my PO could give me a sign of life when I could begin my speech, please do so. Before I move forward, I'd like to ask everyone a question. Why do you guys think poverty rates are so high and continuously rising? Last year in America, the poverty rates were over 63%, which would round up to around 37 million. Why do you guys think the streets are so full of people who have to work trashy jobs earning minimum wage? I believe it's because this bill has not been passed yet. Because this bill hasn't been passed yet, college is a resource that almost every single person needs to make it in life. Study shows in 2021, about 68% of all jobs require at least a college education, and by 2031, it has been projected that 72% of jobs will require at least a college education. This statistic alone can help us realize the crucial role college will be playing many years from now. Did you know around 75% of all six-figure paying jobs require a college degree? We should also be thinking about this before we pass or fail this bill and how it will affect our future. I want everybody to take a second to imagine what would happen if this bill would pass. Studies from now show 62.2% of all college students graduate. Now, with hundreds of thousands, possibly millions of people with now college degrees due to college tuition possibly being free, can you imagine what this could do for our economy? Huge changes are bound to happen. If the economy becomes better and more people are making money, we can look forward to better infrastructure. Prices go down and taxes will be going down in the future. 69% of college graduates want their kids to go to college. So if you think about this in the future, the bill will slowly lose its purpose as we move on. Almost everybody will contribute to the economy now due to the fact that a good amount of people will have more wealth and will be making more money for us. New buildings, cleaner streets are all bound to happen with all of this. The opposing sides consider that the money should be put into something else, but seriously talking about this, I feel like if we don't invest in our college, what future do we really have to invest in? This may affect us for a while now, but I feel like if we consider how much the benefits outweigh the negatives, then this bill should definitely be passed. Thank you.
Thank you, Senator Sankar, for that amazing speech. We are now in line for one block of questioning. May all questioners please rise at the tap of my gavel. Senator Tiger.
Senator Sakisili, I will be your PO this afternoon. Senators Veronica, Sky, Janice, Maya, and Shiloh, please make your way onto the stage. Thank you. At 3:33 p.m., I call this chamber into order. Are there any authorships? Senator Veronica.
Hello, my name is Senator Veronica, or Senator Simon. I am at the leisure of all those above me, so if my PO and coaches are ready, I will begin. Great. When I was in 7th grade, I had a classmate threaten to shoot up the school. Thankfully, it was only a bluff, and they were expelled. However, some people aren't as lucky as I was. I wrote this resolution because no other child should feel as scared as I was. No child should worry that they will be shot on a Monday morning. In order to achieve a safer future for not only those in the room, but the 300 million Americans in this country, we must pass this legislation. In the US, 45,000 people die from gun violence every year. Of those people, 5,000 are children. According to the US News and World Report, nearly 350 school shooting incidents occurred across the US in 2023. Nationwide, 248 children were either wounded or killed. Senators, passing this resolution is our only chance to make it up to the children who have been killed from assault arms, to their families and friends who have had to live every day of their lives knowing that children are out there dying. Banning assault weapons would prevent mass shooting injuries and death, which is why we must pass this resolution. According to Brady United, 155% more people are shot in incidents where assault weapons are used. And at the rate of how it's going now, people will continue to get hurt because of gun violence if we do nothing. The negation will try and convince you that this resolution is flawed, but clearly they have not taken into account how necessary it is, considering the thousands of people who have died and will continue to die if we don't take a stance. Implementing this resolution would significantly lower violent crime in the US, including suicide, homicide, and school shooting rates. Compare the current state of the US to a country like, say, Germany. According to the World Population Review, on average, 155 people die of gunfire there every year. Imagine a world where you don't have to worry about being shot at school. A world where you don't hear about someone getting shot and killed on the news every day. Assault arms are designed for rapid fire and high-capacity magazines and are incredibly dangerous to civilians. This legislation would save lives. According to RAND, banning assault arm violence would better our country and allow for less people to die of gun violence every day. Are you really arguing that human lives are less important than anything else? Senators, nothing is comparable to the lives that have been lost because of the terrifying gun violence that pollutes our country. We must pass this resolution to atone for the thousands who have died and for the future of every American in this country. Pass.
Thank you, Senator Veronica, for that powerful speech. We will now move on to questioning. All questioners, please rise. Senator Joshua, unopposed.
Hello, Senator. Thank you for the speech. Did you know that the school shootings had guns used illegally?
Well, yes, I'm aware of that, but this resolution would get rid of so many of the weapons in manufacturing, so there would not be enough weapons that someone could illegally get their hands on Take Germany, for example, as I stated in my speech. Because they have such strict gun laws, there are less people dying every year.
What will happen to the 6% of Americans that have AKs?
Well, in the legislation, actually, it says that Congress would regulate the use of assault weapons. So that 6% of Americans with assault guns would be managed by Congress, whether that means banning them or letting them keep it.
Won't this bill also mean that the government will have too much power over the states?
That is exactly why Congress would regulate the use of these weapons so that it doesn't get out of control. And it's non-debatable that that's so much better than the thousands of Americans who are already dying every year.
Thank you, Senators Joshua and Senator Simon. You may now take your seat. We will now move on to a speech in delegation.
Pardon the interruption, patrons. Can Inga Goldberg come to the front desk, please? Inga Goldberg.
All negation speakers, please rise. Thank you, Senator Scott.
Parents, guardians, and students, before I start my speech, I would like you to put awareness to yourself, to the children around you, and to everyone that you see today. Hello, my name is Skye, spelled S-K-Y-E. I am at the leisure of all those who are above me, so may I please have some recognition from my PO. Imagine being home at night alone, nobody but yourself and loved ones who are sleeping. You suddenly hear the door of your home open. You look scared for who may have entered your home holding a gun for self-defense. You see an unknown person breaking and entering, fighting with you, about to attack. You shoot in self-defense, saving yourself and the ones you care about the most. That is what happens over 2 million times a year. According to the National Rifle Association, it states that studies indicate that firearms are used over 2 million times a year for personal protection. This personal protection to live is a necessity. It gives the comfort of safety while also being used reasonably, being used to defend any danger that was to come your way or your family's. Not having to run in fear, knowing that you are powerful enough to defend yourself is better than being vulnerable. According to TLA.org, it states Americans age 18 and over own firearms, with approximately 25.3 million reporting having used a gun to defend themselves or their property. Even young adults must now have the deering anguish of having to fight for something better for themselves. The wanting to live should always, always be on top of everything. But I guess the outside won't see it the right way. Feeling this bill would even cause a human's amendment right to be tampered with. But the outside just can't see it. In 1791, the United States Bill of Rights, which includes the Second Amendment right, firearms are used for self-defense, hunting, and recreation. If this is one of our basic human rights, you cannot take this away. This is what we stand for, and this is what we want. And I will read to you some of the causes that this has done. According to the Texas legislation, it states just 12% of gun owners say they worry about having guns in their home, while 80% say they do not. When having a gun in your home, it makes you feel safety. It makes you know that the people around you, the children around you, and your parents around you will be safe. You have protection for yourself. You have protection for the people that you know, and you have protection for the people that you care for. According to the Texas legislation, it states in America today, roughly 82 million of Americans owned guns in 2023, aka 40% approximately. According to text legislation, it states, when you own a gun, you are more observant of your surroundings and more cautious of others. This is due to the fact that you know that you will be safe and you know the environment that you are. We're in Manhattan right now, well, Brooklyn, where we are, like right now. You know the streets are not safe. We know the streets, things happen every single day. As one of my senators have said, the streets are dangerous. And I will stand for questioning.
Thank you, Senator Sky, for that powerful speech. We will now move into questioning. All questioners, please rise. Senator Nicolai.
Thank you for that speech. As previously mentioned, some countries have much stricter gun laws. How are people in those countries still able to defend themselves?
Many other countries have the ability of guns. Yet, if you read the bill,
this bill is dedicated in America. This having no correlation to anywhere else except for America.
But thank you for your wonderful question.
I thank the chair.
As that was a speech of indignation, we will now hear from the affirmation. Senator Janish, you may take the floor.
Good afternoon. My name is Senator Caraballo, not Caballo because I'm not a horse. That is spelled Caraballo. As always, I'm at the leisure of all those above me, so anytime the judge and the peon, I'll begin. Okay. America has a disease that is spreading like wildfire, a disease that is killing our citizens, a disease that is killing minorities, a disease that is killing literal children. America's disease is guns. We as a government have made guns too accessible to the people of the United States. And in doing so, we have assisted in the murder of thousands, adults and children. Passing this bill to amend the Constitution to ban assault arms will decrease the number of lives lost in shooting incidents while also rebuilding the trust Americans have regarding their safety. First, let's talk about why this amendment was put in place and how this no longer serves us as a nation. ConnecticutGeneral.gov states, the Constitution did not intend to limit the right to keep and bear arms to a formal military body or organized militia, but intended to provide for an unorganized armed citizenry prepared to assist in the common defense against a foreign invader. This means they allowed citizens to own assault rifles in replacement of not having military or militia systems. We have these systems in place now, so why do we, regular day-to-day citizens, need guns? We don't. Others will say that we need it for self-defense. However, it's been proven time and time again that this right has been misused. Fuck. I'm sorry. I'm so sorry. It has been proven time and time again that this right has been misused and instead cost the lives of many innocent people of all ages. ABC News 2023 shows there were more shootings than there were days. Literal days. They show 629 shootings had occurred in 2023. That is practically the equivalent of 2 shootings every day for a year. It is ridiculous. And it's not even the first time. In 2021, there were 690 shootings. In 2022, 645. Mind you, this doesn't even make up the majority of gun violence in the United States. It is ridiculous the number of shootings we have in a year. It is ridiculous we expect people to feel safe and students to function normally, knowing they can be gone in seconds, all because we allow guns to fall in the hands of trigger-happy citizens. Second, by passing this bill and ensuring assault arms are no longer legal to carry, we are reinforcing the safety in our school systems and providing reassurance. A 2021 JAMA study shows 2,000 kids surveyed in Los Angeles expressed concerns on school shootings. It was found all that were concerned had risked symptoms of developing anxiety and panic disorders due to internalizing these feelings. Zero Eyes shows 1.5 million students stopped attending public schools in fear of being victim to these incidents. This is affecting our nation and the students within it. We watch these students cower in fear, afraid of what can happen the moment they enter the school building. How dare you sit there and ignore the lives lost and traumatized by this disease you continue to let spread? Pass this bill and ensure the future students will not have to worry if this will be their last day alive. Pass this bill so parents do not have to worry if this will be the last time they send their child to school. Pass this bill to create a safer work environment for all of us. And pass this bill if you care about humans' lives. That was so embarrassing.
Thank you, Senator Catalano. We will now move on to questioning. All questioners, please rise. Senator Danny, unopposed.
Thank you, Senator, for that wonderful and powerful speech and advocating for people that look like me and come from communities that I come from. However, I have one question, Senator. Who is going to protect us?
Senator, I'm not trying to be rude. I know where you're going with this, and you expect me to say the police protect us, but I can give you countless examples where the police failed to protect us. In fact, let me give you one that happened within the last 72 hours. Say her name, Sonia Macy.
I hear you, Senator. And countless times, police officers have failed black women who look just like me. However, let's look at the times where police officers have de-escalated school shootings. For example, Officer Mary Thurman of the Sarasota County in Florida.
I hear you, Senator. But according to New York Times article in 2022, an article was released about how 433 active shootings actually ended and 249 attacks ended before police even arrived.
I have read that same article, and out of 249 incidents, more than 33% of them ended with the criminal committing suicide.
Right, but...
Thank you, Senators. Catalano, you may begin. We will now hear from the negation. Negation speakers, please rise. Senator Maya, unopposed.
Hi, my name is Senator Narendula, spelled Narendula. I am at the leisure of all those above me, so if my judge, PO, and parliamentarian could give me a thumbs up, I will begin. America's gun business is a $28 billion industry. This is more than 6 times the value of Chick-fil-A and all its stores combined. This is an industry that employs 400,000 people who could lose their only source of income because of this resolution. 400,000 people who would see a significant drop in business, making it difficult to support themselves and their families. We must fail this utterly flawed resolution. This resolution will not only destroy a multi-billion-dollar industry, it will do little to nothing to improve the main issues surrounding guns, namely school shootings, mass shootings, and homicides. These rates will not go down significantly enough to warrant instituting a resolution that will greatly hurt our economy and cause division among our people. In a fact sheet about assault weapons from the U.S. Department of Justice, assault weapons are defined as a civilian semi-automatic version of a military weapon. Assault weapons, at their core, are semi-automatic guns that just look like military weapons. As said by the Los Angeles Times, after the California assault weapons ban of 1989, gun makers have been able to easily skirt these laws. They just sell the same semi-automatic rifle with the same lethality, but without the military-style features. We've tried to institute an assault weapons ban before, and it has failed. According to the Pew Research Center, in 2020, handguns were involved in 59% of U.S. gun murders and non-negligent manslaughters. Rifles, the category that includes guns labeled assault weapons, the guns that will be banned by this resolution, were only involved in 3% of firearm murders. Senator Simon, you say that this ban will improve the rates of gun violence in our country, but banning assault weapons will only eliminate 3% of gun murders. Additionally, banning these weapons will only build up the illegal gun market currently existing in the U.S. According to NPR, at this moment there are 68,000 illegally trafficked firearms in this country. And as assault weapons are banned, this number will rise. More and more people will turn to the illegal gun market, which the government has no effective way of regulating. This change to the Constitution will only increase the stigma around guns. Gun owners and businesses will feel threatened, and these threatened, unpredictable people will be the ones with the weapons that can end our lives in their hands. As Senator Sky stated in their speech, the reason why Americans value the right to bear arms is for self-protection. In this political climate, many feel unsafe, as though at any moment our democracy might break down and there will be social unrest. At this moment, the right to the Second Amendment is more important than ever. Especially approaching an election, it is necessary that people feel safe to vote, that people feel safe to voice their opinions, that people are able to make the decision at the ballot box clear-headed. This resolution needs to fail for its devastating negative impact on our economy, the division and unrest it will cause in our society, which will lead to more violence, and its ineffectiveness at its core. Thank you. I now stand for questioning.
Thank you, Senator Maya. We now have time for one more questioning block. All questioners may rise. Senator James Harden.
Senator, would you say you care about people who look like me?
Yes, of course I care about all Americans.
I'm talking about black people. Do you care?
Of course I care.
You said banning assault weapons will only eliminate 3% of gun murders, but don't you think 3% is better than none?
3% is not nearly a big enough impact to warrant a bill or a resolution that will have so many negative impacts on our economy, on our people.
But do you know how much that 3% can save? If you do not pass this bill, how would you save my people? How would you save all Americans?
This resolution will make it harder to pass bills like these in the past, bills that are actually effective, as it'll increase the stigma around guns.
That still doesn't answer how you would save people, Senator.
I would save people by implementing an actually effective bill, one that bans the guns that are involved in these murders, handguns, not assault rifles.
Are you saying assault weapons aren't used for murder? And when will this bill be passed?
Thank you, Senators, for your questions. We will now move on to our final speech, Senator Shiloh.
My name is Senator James Harden, JAMES-HARDEN. Though I'm not good as an actual basketball player, but playing ball, I am good at backing up my team. I'm at the leisure of all those above me. Can I get a sign from my PO and judge to begin? Imagine coming back from the convenience store after getting Skittles in Arizona, on the phone with your girlfriend. Then a man approaches you. He's questioning you, and you don't comply, leading him to put his hands on you. You fight back out of self-defense, but then he pulls out a gun and shoots you 1-2 times many. And he did it because you look suspicious in a hoodie. A hoodie. That person who was shooting was George Zingerman, and the person shot was Trayvon Martin, a 17-year-old boy. A fight should never result to pulling out guns, but in this case, it did. Trayvon was pronounced dead on the scene. Guns are the root of most of our problems, leading with 48,830,000 deaths. Deaths like this one. We can start somewhere, and it should be assault arms. We can't get his life back, but we can ban the things similar that caused it. We must ban assault arms. Police brutality has affected minorities, especially black people. Black people are still killed by police at a higher rate than any other group, said NBCnews.com 2022. Within 72 hours, Sonia Mazie, a 36-year-old, was shot 3 times in her head by a cop because he deemed her as a threat. She was holding a pot of boiling water that the police told her to pick up, and they deemed her as a threat. They let her bleed out. And he called her a bitch with no respect for her. Sheen Grayson's partner said that the camera was left on accident. So imagine if that camera was not on. Our people are dying. My people are dying. The police are out of control, and it's the power of the gun to blame. But it's not only police. There are school shootings too. CNN.com, there are 35 school shootings in the U.S. so far this year, 9 on college campuses, and 26 K-12 school grounds. Those incidents left 17 people dead and at least 39 injured. Tess and Malta, Layla M. Seltzer, McKenna L. Enrod are just some of the kids who lost their lives. So what if this was your sibling, your mom, your dad? You would probably care then, right? Because once your loved ones die, then you care. Typical. Do you care about our kids and adults, minorities, black people? This bill ensures safety for our people. We do not need guns to solve our problems. It's fighting fire with fire. If a robber has a gun, you should not shoot him. He is human too. Senator Sky.
But obviously, to some people like Senator Maya, 3% isn't good enough to save a life. And Senator Sky, with the other countries, they will focus on what they need to do with their gun laws. How are we going to focus on somebody? How are we going to focus on other places where we can't figure out what we need to do ourselves? We need to pass this bill before we lose other people. Say the victims' names. Say their names if you care. Say their names. Pass in the names of the lost souls. Pass so we can finally breathe. Pass because these victims could be you. And that's I now stand for questioning.
Thank you, Senator Chambers. We will now move on to questioning. All questioners, please rise. Senator Danny.
Yes. Thank you, Senator, for that very powerful and great speech. Does the average police officer walk around with an assault weapon?
No, but I said in my speech that we need to start somewhere. And even if we can't ban those now, who says we can't do it in the future? You are welcome.
At 3:58, this chamber is now adjourned.
All right, folks. What a great debate. What a great 3 debates. Those were 3 pieces of legislation that we just heard debate. We are about to take a 10-minute break. This is a great time to get some surveys done. Right, I thought I was supposed to read those pieces of paper. No, if you arrived after the surveys were handed out, please turn around. My friend Deco here is going to hand out a survey for you to fill out. But this is also a great time to thank your parents for supporting you, to tell your kids you're proud of them, to avoid eye contact in the restrooms, and we'll see you in 10 minutes for one final piece. Up and then you stand up. It'll be great. All right, folks, we have one more piece of legislation to be debated for you today. That piece of legislation is behind me because we are going to have our more experienced class. Now, not everybody in this class has done speech and debate before, has done Congress before. So that's really exciting to see the progress that they've made. But the class decided that for their context and for yours, the text of the bill will be in the background. And to tell you a little bit more about what we're doing and how we're doing it, I am about to invite up the coach for the Advanced Congress class, Angie.
Let me just adjust this. Hey everybody, can you hear me? Yes. My name is Coach Angie. It has been an absolute pleasure to be here at camp, not only to be here and to just witness the transformation of all the students, but to also be coaching, to be teaching, and to be part of an amazing team. So just one more round of applause. This is an amazing piece. Amazing. 2 things. First, we hear on social media to say their names, but I have to wonder, do we only say their names when we see the tweets about it and then never say them again? Speech and debate is one of those few spaces where you will hear the names of victims of police brutality, shootings, things of this nature over and over again. And just empowering our students to be people who speak up is our advocacy and our mission. So thank you for saying their names. The second thing I want to talk about is this legislation behind me. This is written by a student. Can that student please stand up? Omar Sakasili is a rising senior. He goes to Pace High School, where I have the privilege of being the debate coach there through the BDL, along with Mr. Dolliver, who is the main coach at the school there. Omar has literally never done Congress before. He's here with 2 of his teammates, and he wrote this, which is incredible. I want you to take a note here. Not only is it suggesting that we ban police chokeholds, it's giving us implementation mechanisms and specificity. So you're going to hear my students refer to that specificity in their speeches. I ask that you get ready to be amazed because I have been blown away at the transformation of all of my students. I have 4 incredible speakers who will now join me on the stage. Go ahead and come up here. In addition, you will hear from every single member of the Advanced Congress Lab in questioning. So these will be complete 3-minute speeches, and you will hear 30-second blocks of questioning. In addition, I'm looking for Senator Borg, who will be our honorable PO, presiding officer today. And that's the extent of my job. I'm passing it over to Senator Borg. And folks, you may actually, would you like to take your seats and we'll call on you from the audience, or would you prefer to stay seated? Up to you guys. All right, Jarvis is seating, so go ahead and stay seated. And Senator Borg, the floor is yours.
Hello, I'm Senator Borg. I will be your PO this afternoon, and I promise to run this chamber. Actually, I'm keeping this over here. Yeah, just so.
Yeah, sure.
Fast, fair, fun, and efficiently. For my audience, I will be using a gavel to keep time. Now, I adjourn this. No, oh my God. I call this chamber to order now. Are there any motions?
Main motion.
Second.
Motion to open the floor for docket nomination.
Second.
Second.
Any other motions?
Motion to nominate a docket about banning police chokeholds.
Second.
Motion.
State that.
Motion to end docket nomination.
Second.
Second.
This chamber will now move to debating a bill to ban chokeholds. Are there any sponsorships? Senator McCarthy, please take this stage.
I thank the chair. Hey everyone, is this good? Because sometimes I do yell a bit. All right, my name is Senator McCarthy, spelled M-C-C-A-R-T-H-Y. And I'm not related to Kevin McCarthy or Joseph McCarthy, probably. Anyways, just if I could get a thumbs up from my judges and PO, I'll begin my speech. Great. I'd like to begin with a story of Eric Garner, who was murdered by police on July 17th, 2017. They approached him and put their hands on him. He didn't want that to happen, so he brushed their hands off. They then tackled him to the ground, put him in a chokehold, and he was dead 1 hour later at a hospital. This is what happens with this bill not being passed. Pass this bill. Now, this brings me to our first claim. Chokeholds cost lives. It's not just Eric Garner. It's also Hector Arola, Muhammad Abdul-Mahaman, Elijah McCain, George Floyd, and countless more, all dead because of this. Look to George Floyd's hometown, Minneapolis. ABC finds between 2015 and 2020, neck restraints were used 437 times, leaving 44 people unconscious. The FBI reports 32 times between 2010 and 2020 did someone in a police chokehold say, "I can't breathe." They're all dead now. The shocking part, 3/4 were non-white, over 50% black men. This shows lives are being costed by chokeholds right now happening. And the worst part is that it is racially motivated. It gives cops a feeling that they're above the law and they take it out on minorities. I don't want this, neither should you. Pass this bill. This brings me to our second claim. It's that it emphasizes nonviolence and de-escalation because it leaves the floor open to alternatives. Brendan Beck, an associate professor at the School of Criminal Justice at Rutgers in Newark, says, quote, "The neck restraint ban is an indication of a department's general use of force policies and whether they encourage nonviolence and de-escalation. The police say their goal is to protect and serve. I know who we all want protecting and serving us. Nonviolence, not encouraging violence, and peace, not death." Speaking of peace, this actually lowers crime rates when police officers can't do chokeholds. According to the same Rutgers study, in cities where neck restraints were banned, crimes were solved at higher rates. Why, you may be wondering? Well, it's because it actually emphasizes trust and cooperation between police and communities. So not only does banning this bill save lives, it saves them even more. Because now, crime is going to happen less. It's a win-win. The police are more liked and get to do their job better, and the people now are not going to die as much and don't have to worry as much. I'd like to conclude this by saying, I've talked a lot about statistics. I've brought up a lot of numbers. Behind every statistic, though, is a story. I started this with the story of Eric Garner. Let's dive more deep into his life. He was known in his community as a peacemaker. He worked multiple jobs, including some as a mechanic and part of the New York's Department of Parks and Recreation. He was a father of 6. All of his kids loved him, and he was in a happy, healthy relationship with his wife. Again, murdered by police. Don't let any more of this happen. Don't create more Eric Garners. Pass this bill now.
Thank you, Senator McCarthy, for that speech of 2 minutes and 55 seconds. All questioners, please rise. Recco, Dennis, then Adams, and Teo.
Great speech, Senator. Since 4 previous bans on chokeholds have been ineffective, why should my fellow senators and I believe that this version will be more effective?
Well, there's 2 main differences. First of all, this time, it's the Department of Justice regulating it rather than local police departments. And second of all, the punishment is much different. It's a 25% right now reduction in state funding. It used to be regulated about as much as bribery in the Supreme Court is regulated. Please don't do it.
But according to CNN in 2021, the Department of Justice has been working on regulations for the last 4 years, and yet they've still been ineffective with more people dying.
Yes, again, they've been working on it. And again, the punishments are just so much more different that this will make an impact because it is a different bill.
I thank the chair.
Thank you.
Hi, Senator. Riveting speech. One aim of yours is to end racial bias in law enforcement.
Yes.
Well, what makes you think that just switching to another method of restraint will address the discriminatory police attacks that we see in the status quo?
Listen, I don't necessarily think that passing this bill will end all bias, but if we can save at least one person from a bias-related death to police, I see this as a win. And again, many people die due to chokeholds. It's not just one person.
Yes, but Senator, can police just decide to use a gun to more efficiently incapacitate the person that they're dealing with?
A lot of people know when they shoot that they might be shooting to kill. Chokeholds are unfortunately viewed as safe. And we're going to be showing chokeholds are not safe and we're going to be banning them. Yeah.
Thank you, Senator.
Hi, Senator. I'll be going based off that previous questioning block. How are you to hold police accountable for the least used method of nonviolent continuability, but then also still destroy that same state's economy?
So yes, it may be the least used, but we're still trying to save lives out here. We don't have any other bills right now on this floor saving people from any other types of attacks. For instance, tasers. That's a good way to non-violently do anything.
But Senator, how are you going to warrant for police to simply use other nonviolent de-escalation methods in comparison to the one that isn't even the main reason for deaths?
Even still, is my time up? No, I can answer? Okay. Even still, right, people still die in the end. By taking away this one method of police to kill people, maybe they'll actually emphasize nonviolence and de-escalation like I said in my speech.
Thank you, Senator Adams. Senator Sorry.
Hi, Senator. Great speech. I'm on your side, and I feel like the negation may be concerned about what alternatives officers can use to subdue people. So what non-lethal alternatives could officers use to apprehend suspects?
Great question, thank you. So, something that I said a lot in my speech, non-violence. That is the most important part of a police force. Cooperation between the people and the community. Yes, tasers are maybe another option, but what we're putting at the forefront right now is non-violence unless they absolutely need to.
What about suspects who pose a threat to public safety?
Well, then maybe you wouldn't be doing them in a chokehold, right? I mean, if they pose a threat to public and police safety, then obviously police officers are allowed to use force. Thank you. Thank you, Chair.
We will now move into a speech of negation. All speakers may rise. Senator Johnson, the floor is yours.
Good afternoon. My name is Senator Johnson, spelled Johhnson. I don't have any of those cool name phrases or anything. I will be jumping right into this. We are no strangers to the fact that the police system is wretchedly inept. That bias and hate determines whether a young person of color even lives to see their grandkids or not. In today's society, innocent citizens are dropping like flies, and this bill is just barely acknowledging that. Fail as we divert to what's more important. First, I would like to look to precedents and procedures. 1982, 1993, 2012, and 2017. These are 4 staples that represent dates on a ban on chokeholds was enforced. But have they worked? Well, the truth is in the pudding. Senator McCarthy knows just as well as we all do about the names, the stories, the statistics. Yet, when he was questioned, he was not able to prove that this bill was the adequate solution, and in the same breath states that past attempts on this bill were not properly executed by enforcement mechanisms. So now that both the affirmation and the negation can agree that this bill is lazy, allow me to state why this is so important. The problem is not the procedures, the problem is the bias.
As of right now, only half of the states in the USA have an enforced legislation over bias training. The State's Journal states that as of March 2024, a significant increase has been seen after police bias training was enforced. For example, in one of these states, the Commonwealth Beacon states that in the state of Massachusetts, there have been 60% fewer arrests as of October 2023 and a 14% decrease in crime in the area. Senators, we see what the real problem is. This is just a lazy excuse to say that they tried and they didn't. How many times will we allow history to keep repeating itself? I would now like to turn to my second point, prerequisites. Before decreasing the amount of fatal police encounters, we need to put a stop to what is the bigger picture, shootings. The Statista Research Department states that 1,000 people a year die to police shootings, and this has been the case for the past 7 years. Senator McCarthy has stated 32 counts of phrases, the phrase "I can't breathe." But what is 32 to 7,000? There has been little to no evidence that fatal chokeholds can even touch the amount of people that died of gun violence via the police in these past couple of years. There's a reason that forces are quicker to adhere to chokeholds, the smaller impact, and it's because they just don't care. A ban on chokehold does not magically dissolve bias. A ban on chokehold does not make a huge impact in the police brutality rates. A ban on chokeholds will not be effective the 5th time around. Fail. I am now standing for questions.
Thank you, Senator Johnson, for that speech of 3 minutes and 30 seconds. All questioners may rise. Senator Williams, Senator Teo, Williams, Sims, and Adams.
Hello, Senator Grigsby. You argue that banning chokeholds has been historically ineffective, and therefore this bill is also ineffective. However, Section 4 of the bill states that departments that fail to comply will receive a 25% reduction in state funding, which will hold officers accountable. So how will this bill still be ineffective?
So what? All the reduction in the world is not going to take away their bias.
Okay, but if officers are penalized for not complying with the bill, won't they be more likely to actually comply?
Senator, most of the names that Senator McCarthy states, in most cases, the police were never held accountable.
Thank you, Senator Teo. Senator Williams.
Great speech, Senator. But what about the minorities and the innocent civilians that are racially profiled every day and killed by the police chokehold? Would this bill not help them?
I wholeheartedly agree that this bill will help, but there is a bigger problem that is shootings. And we've had 3 decades to fix the ban on chokeholds, and it has not worked as of 2024.
But why not think of a smaller problem to help with the bigger problem?
As I said, we had 3 decades to fix this issue. Nothing has been done.
Senator Sims.
Great speech. If you have a problem with police bias, why are you going out of your way to provide them with an easy avenue to exercise this bias in a lethal way before lethal force is authorized?
Well, quite frankly, Senator, I think that bias training does quite the opposite.
But this isn't a bill about bias training. This isn't in conflict with any bias training bills.
What I'm saying is that we had 3 decades to get chokeholds underway, and it has failed 4 times. We need to divert to something that's more important as of right now.
This bill is different from other chokehold bills in the way that my previous senators have mentioned. If you don't believe that the law acts as a
None
deterrent,
of
why
these
are
ways
you
are unique. History has repeated itself too many times.
Thank you, Senator Sims. Senator Adams.
Hi, Senator Grigsby. How do you feel about federal prosecutors bringing charges against officers under state criminal law passed by this legislation?
I agree that that should happen.
Exactly. So bringing more to the point that we should pass this bill, because that would be meaning that those same police officers that you're stating that has this brutality will be coming into light and having to face federal charges.
Well, I think the bigger question is how likely is that to happen? How many times have police been prosecuted for the way that they've treated minorities? Little to none.
Much larger, actually, Senator, because of the George Floyd death. Over 400 more implementations have become through these in police.
And how long did that take?
Society needs to take time to
Adams. Senator Johnson, you may take a seat. We will now move to the speech and the affirmation. All affirmation speakers may rise.
I thank the chair. My name is Senator Gural Maiello, spelled Gural-Maiello. May I have a thumbs up from my PO when you're ready? Thank you. Data from 10 wealthy countries shows the total number of people killed by police in 2019. In the UK, that number is 3. In Japan, that number is 2. In New Zealand, that number is 1. In Norway and Iceland, that number is 0. Canada has the second highest number of 36, but that does not nearly rival the US's number of 1,099. First, pass this bill because chokeholding is extremely harmful and fatal in many situations. Neurologist Dr. Altaf Sadi from Massachusetts General Hospital told the Seattle Times that chokeholding cuts off the blood flow to the brain, causing people to become unconscious in 3 to 4 seconds and can kill people in 3 to 4 minutes. This is crucial because we must pass this bill for the greater good of our constituents to save lives. Second, we have a viable solution to this bill once we ban chokeholds. Axon, a company with a mission to protect lives and eventually make dangerous forms of offense obsolete, conducted a study funded by the DOJ with 1,201 field users and 6 law enforcement agencies about tasers. 99.75% of the time, the result was a completely safe outcome with no deaths or major injuries as a result. Chokeholds have no place in society because we have a viable replacement for them that is not only effective but safe. Senator Johnson says that the problem is not the procedures, it's the bias. But the Council on Criminal Justice says that there is no evidence that implicit bias training is effective. Therefore, the problem is not the bias, it's the procedures. Thank you very much, and please pass this bill for the greater good of our constituents because it is a step towards justice and it saves lives.
Gural Maiello for that speech of 2 minutes and 11 seconds. All questioners may now rise. I will go to Teo, then Dunas, then Greco.
Senator, can you please tell me how likely it is for someone to die when being held at chokehold? And then can you tell me how likely it is for someone to die when being held at gunpoint?
As Senator McCarthy came before me to say, that AFSIDE is not denying that chokeholds aren't the most prevalent form of abuse and police brutality, but this bill is a step towards justice and should be passed.
But when you take away the power of the fist, it gives more power to the bullet. So what do you say to that?
Well, banning chokeholds is a step towards justice, and tasers are a viable solution, as I mentioned in my speech.
How can you be sure that that works?
Why should the enforcement mechanism of this bill deter state funding, like Section B suggests, instead of directly punishing officers?
Great question, Senator. By defunding police's state funding, the rate of taxation by citation, which is police enforcement to gain revenue, will be prevented because their offenses will lead to a decrease in their profits.
Senator, can you name an instance where police were held accountable just because of a funding reduction?
Why do we need to worry about the past? This bill will ensure that the police are held accountable because of a funding reduction.
Yeah, Senator Dunas. Okay. Hey, Senator, great speech, but if we ban chokeholds, what makes you think that police won't just choose to use a gun, seeing as gun use in the police force is a very huge problem in the status quo, especially when concerning minorities?
Well, the Axon study I mentioned earlier says that tasers are 97% effective at subduing a criminal. Therefore, police would not have to use a gun. There would be no need because tasers are effective.
But how often, actually, yes, thank you, Senator, that was a great speech. Thank you for answering the question.
Now, we'll move to our last speech in the negation. All senators in the negation, please rise.
I thank the chair. My name is Senator Fasasi, spelled F-A-S-A-S-I, nicknamed Saucy. I'm at the leisure of all those above me. If I can get a thumbs up from my PO and judge, that would be great. Great? Great. This bill is like a corrupted fruit in a fruit basket because it rots all the fruit it touches. The corrupted fruit is the bill, and the rest of the fruit are the people. Passing this bill will spread the rot of death through police brutality because police will be forced to resort to more lethal options in order to take care of criminals. Fail. First, fail. Because chokeholds are safe and useful. Chokeholds are not only making a safer alternative to a bullet, but a safer last resort. Banning them makes a grave mistake. According to a 2022 article by the Atrium Health Wake Forest Baptist website, researchers found that the technique vascular neck restraints had a 92.6% success rate in arresting targets and criminals. VNRs, a type of chokehold that affects the blood flow, is effective when arresting a target. Furthermore, an article by Vaughn Kleem of Force Science shows that over an 11-year period, when 3 North American law enforcement agencies collectively applied VNRs over 940 times when arresting targets, with an additional 230 police uses in a separate report in 2021, in those combined 1,174 uses of VNRs, there were no significant injuries or deaths. Senators McCarthy and Garal Mayello try to prove that chokeholds are mostly lethal. Great arguments, but wrong, as chokeholds have a history of safe use, and the cases they bring up are rare. Second, fail, because passing this bill would promote police brutality. If you had to get hit by a fist or a fist-sized steel ball, logically, you choose a fist. I know I would. But if you remove the fist and let yourself get hit by the more dangerous option, obviously you put yourself in more danger. And that's what this bill does. A 2021 article by Riley McGrath of the Institute for Youth in Policy states that these bans are nothing but an illusion of a solution, forcing officers to resort to more lethal options, such as a taser or a gun. Additionally, unlike the propaganda that Senator Maral Gaiello is talking about, a 2017 PBS research article shows that more than 1,000 people have died to tasers since the year 2000, like Dante Wright and Daryl Tyree Williams, who was tased 4 times. Let's be real. Folks, let's use our brains and not fight one problem by causing or accelerating another. We must cut the growing rot off from this source, which is the bill. Stand with me today and fail.
Thank you, Senator Fasasi, for that speech of 3 minutes and 7 seconds. All questioners may rise, but before that, can I remind you to take a step back from the microphone? Thank you. Teo, Williams, then Singh. Then McCarthy.
Hi, Senator, great speech. You argue that banning chokeholds will force police officers to resort to more lethal methods like tasers. But tasers have been almost 100% success rate, and the examples you listed were when tasers were used in irresponsible and excessive manner. So why are you saying that tasers are more?
I gave you 2 examples of over thousands of cases where tasers killed people, while chokeholds have less than that. Let's use our brains and fail this bill.
Okay, but do you have any statistics about deaths by chokeholds so we have something to compare it to?
No, I do not. But what I can tell you is that there are less deaths by chokeholds than tasers or bullets, which is why we must fail this bill.
Senator Williams? Great speech, Senator. But what about the hundreds of people that have died because of chokeholds? How do we know that this will not keep happening?
I cannot promise you that this won't keep happening. What I can promise you is that if we pass this bill and remove one of the few non-lethal options that police officers have to take care of suspects, there will be more deaths.
Hi, so I noticed that in your speech you cited a study by the Force Science Institute to prove that tasers are not lethal. The Force Science Institute is funded by law enforcement. Do you not believe that this makes your source biased?
I did not know that it was funded by law enforcement. But what I can tell you is that this statistic is still reliable to show you that tasers cause more deaths and VNRs save more lives.
So you believe that an organization should be able to invest whether or not their own strategies are reliable, and then...
That's not what I told you. I told you that this statistic proves that VNRs are useful and safe. Fail this bill.
Senator McCarthy?
1 second, guys. Great speech, Senator. So in your speech, you called chokeholds non-legal. How is restricting the flow of blood to someone's brain safe?
Okay. I agree, that is lethal. But as I've said before, there are rare cases in which that has happened. And off of the statistic I've just shown you, more than 1,000 people have had that happen to them and they weren't fatally injured.
But wasn't that over a much bigger time period, 17 years? And also, aren't tasers used much more widely than chokeholds?
Yes, tasers are used much more widely, and yes, it's been 17 years. It's still happening today, and people are still dying from tasers today. Fail this bill.
Thank you, Senator.
Take that.
Motion to move to previous question?
Second.
All right. We will now move into previous question. All Congress members in favor of passing the bill to ban chokeholds, please stand. Okay, please sit down. All Congress members in favor of failing the bill to ban chokeholds, please stand. Please sit down. All those who wish to abstain, stand. One, two, please sit down. With a vote of 6 to 3 to 2, this bill fails. Announcements chamber.
Is this your phone? Okay. All right. Hey, excellent work, everybody. Excellent work. Okay, yes, that's exactly the question that we're here to answer next. Well, I am not going to be telling you. I'm going to be introducing someone. That's the sound. I was like, what is happening? Folks, thank you for watching those excellent debates. Thank you for participating in those excellent debates. We are about to talk to you a little bit before you go, to thank you for being here, to thank some other people, and to give these children some information. They've been wondering all week about who is winning the silly competition we made up that has no stakes whatsoever.
I dedicated my life to this.
I'm really excited, though, to welcome up this next person, because as you'll see, they're going to take all the time they possibly can to thank everyone and make sure that everyone gets recognized, and I'm sure they're not going to give enough credit to themselves. So please give a very warm welcome and thank you to the Executive Director of the Brooklyn Debate League as a whole, Deco.
Hey everybody, can we please give it up for all the debaters? So what you just saw was about half of what we do at camp, and that's the part of camp that's very academic, it's very debate oriented, it's very competitive, but that's what we did before lunch. What we do after lunch every day is a lot more fun. It has to do with socio-emotional learning, it has to do with community building, with team building, all values that we believe as educators are part and parcel of what it means to be a good debater. So can we, without further ado, go to our next slide, please? So we have had the kids, I know we're very excited. We have had the kids competing for the last 2 weeks. It's something called Cabin Cup. And we've had 4 cabins led by 4 extraordinary staff members I actually want to recognize at this point. So let's start. Leading Mo Money. Mo, can you please stand up? Come on, great. Leading the Bulldogs. Ray, can you come on down? Leading Mahomies. Mahima, can you come down? And this one is a little special because the following staff member was sitting where you're all sitting a year ago and was a member of our camp. And this year, she's leading a cabin. So leading something unique. Unique. I understand that there is a very high stakes prize. Joey, are we ready? Are we ready to? Okay. You're going to see it in a minute, but I think we're going to start with our 4th place team, and we want to give it up. Coming in 4th place, drum roll please. Next slide, folks. Hit the arrow. There we go. It's something coming in 3rd place. In 3rd place, it's Mo Money. Give it up for Mo Money. And we have a little saying at speech and debate tournaments that when we announce the 2nd place team or the person, they are the person or team for whom we are applauding. The 1st place team will get their whole separate applause in a second. So in 2nd place, drum roll please. Please give it up for Mahomies. Meaning, your champion of the 2024 Cabin Cup are the Bulldogs. Congratulations to all of our cabin staff. Let's give it up for our cabin staff one more time. You guys can have a seat. So, in addition to recognizing our top cabins, there were some other folks I want to recognize. All camp for the last 2 weeks, we have had rounds every single day where our campers competing against each other and were judged by various members of the staff. And we were not easy on them. We were actually pretty tough on them. And we gave them feedback every day, but we did not share with them how we ranked them every day. In general, we think here at BDL, the ranks are not what matters. The feedback is what helps you grow. That's what matters more. However, we do want to recognize the campers who, over the course of the last 2 weeks, earned the highest cumulative rankings. And how we're going to do this is category by category, starting with something we call in forensics the single clap rule. It goes something like this. We're going to practice. In 10th place, Mickey Mouse. In 9th place, Donald Duck. In 8th place, Elmo. You got it. When we get to the 2nd and 1st place, the runner-up and the champion, we will show their names, not until we get to 2nd. And Student Congress is going to receive a standing ovation, so everyone's going to stand up for them. Your champion this year in Student Congress is David. The next category that we will be announcing is our introductory course. Since there were more students in the introductory course, we're going to be announcing more top students. We'll go through our top 10. Single claps, tied for 10th place, Charlie and Brianna. In 9th place, Shyla. In 8th place, Joshua. In 7th place, Janice. In 6th place, Nicholas. Tied for 5th, Maya, Brennan, and Alyssa. In 4th place, Daniel. In 3rd place, Nikolai. In 2nd place, receiving a full round of applause, Omar. this year's champion in introduction, receiving a standing ovation, is Veronica. The final category that we'll be recognizing is our smallest one at camp. We had 6 students in extemporaneous speech, and we're going to be recognizing our top 3. In 3rd place, Nguyen. In 2nd place, receiving a full round of applause, Caitlin. And your champion in extemp this summer, receiving a standing ovation, is Melanie. Can we give it up one more time for all of our debaters for an awesome job? And this is the point where I want to remind you none of this magic would have happened if it wasn't for our phenomenal staff. So I would like every single staff member, including our runners, our admin team, our cabin staff, our academic staff, to please come up to the stage, and you all can go do what you're supposed to do. That'd be great. Come on down. Give it up for our staff. Clap. Yay, staff. They're very excited to give them the thank you notes they wrote. Okay, if our students would please come out and present our awesome staff with our thank you cards. Let's give it up for our staff one more time, folks.
Yes.
I think we're showing the camera.
I got one. It's in my bag. Okay. Staff, awesome job. Students, awesome job. You know that we have a couple other things to talk about that I promised you. Staff, you can go ahead and have a seat. Susan, if you go to our next slide, please. A lot of students all week have been asking me, okay, this debate thing is awesome. What do I do now? Like, how do I stay involved? And I'm going to talk about this in a couple different buckets. Susan, can you hit the next slide, please? Cool. Those of you who have a team at your school, we invite you to come join our BDLs and to get the kids at your school to come. This is really important because our BDL community is stronger with stronger debaters competing at our tournaments. We host tournaments this year it will be Wednesday afternoon. They are online, so anyone can come. I'm looking at you, friends from New Jersey and Connecticut that came all the way to camp. And we'd love to have you come. I'll be sending out details to you via email so you know the dates, etc. Please come, get your friends to come, get your novices to come. We want you there. Next slide, please. If you don't yet have a team at your school, no problem. 2 things. You can come to our online debates anyway. And same deal, we will be emailing information showing you how to sign up. We would love to have you compete every other Wednesday starting in October. We'll let you know. And additionally, if you go to school in New York City, and particularly if it is a public school, when we are not running summer camp, these amazing staff members are going to all 5 boroughs and starting debate teams from scratch at New York City Public Schools. So if you are someone that's like, hey, I really actually want to have a team at my school, how do I do that? Send us an email and connect us to people at your school. We're happy to talk to your principals, administrators, parents also. If I know you all fill this out on your surveys. Also, if you didn't get a parents survey yet, we're going to talk about that in a second. I'll make sure you get one before we go. But we really do want to work with your students, administrators, and schools to make this happen. We've got at least one of our partner school teachers here. Ms. Connor's in the back from Dream Folks. If you are a parent and you're curious about like what this looks like at partner schools, maybe Ms. Connor wouldn't mind talking to you afterwards. She's a really good ambassador for what we do. Final thing I want to share is we are only able to do this work because of wonderful people who support us. We are one of the only debate leagues, if not the only debate league in the country that runs a summer camp that has a commitment to let every single camper who wants to come to camp come, regardless of their financial situation. Those of you that are new to the forensics world might not know that forensics, speech and debate, is predominantly offered only to students in private schools or wealthy public schools in districts like Scarsdale or Syosset. There are virtually no low-income public schools competing on the state circuit. In fact, Brooklyn Debate League has doubled the number of low-income public schools competing on the state circuit in the last 2 years. And we're not done yet, because there's 500 public high schools in New York City, and we're not going to be finished until we get a debate team in all of them and get them all at states. So what that means is if you and parents, I'm especially looking to you all now, if you are able to personally contribute or help connect us to people in your network, either professionally or personally, that are able to help us out and sponsor debate teams and camps and programming, please reach out to us. I'll be sending you all emails after camp. We can only do this with the support of our larger community, and we appreciate you. So these are the next steps here. Also, if you'd like to follow us on Instagram, it's at BKLYN debate. Sorry, that didn't show up there. And I'll put that on the follow-up email as well. And I'll also include the link to sign up for our mailing list so you know about future opportunities on this in about 3 or 4 minutes. Cool. So I'm going to be strict here, which means I need to be concise and make it happen. So who has a shout out?
I have a shout out.
Shout out.
I would like to shout out my phenomenal cousin. I hate putting you on the spot, but I love you. Thank you for making me sign up for this. Yeah. I have a shout out. I have a shout out for my homies because we came from last place to second.
I have a shout out. Shout out to my partner David for eating in this debate.
Shout out to Daniel Tiger, Michael Grumillo. Shout out to the Sauce Boss, and let's go Bulldogs in second place.
Shout out. I want to shout out everyone at VDL. I've never felt more included in the community.
Shout out. I have a shout out for something unique because like even though we came in last, we really tried our best, and that was the like point of it.
I have a shout out. Shout out. Shout out to everyone here, but also shout out Krista for getting second place.
I got a shout out. I got a shout out for everyone, and I'm glad for everyone who donated. This wouldn't be possible without you, but I also have to shout out my fellow cabin, Mo Money.